Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting for September 15th, 2015. I just want to let everyone know that this meeting is being video recorded and broadcast on local cable television. Can we please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. First item on the agenda tonight are the minutes presented for approval from the meeting on September 1st, 2015. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes for the meeting on September 1st, 2015.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, the next item is the student advisory report. Kylie Choi, student council president, is here to present. Hi, welcome. Yep, sit right down, and then there's a button on the microphone, a silver button that you can press.
Oh, okay. I thought I had to hold it down. Despite all the heat, there was a really good start to school. We just wrapped up the open house last week. It went very smoothly. We've started the LHS Compass, which is the new advisory program. We've had advisory for a couple years, but we're really ramping it up this year and trying to work in more community service and things like that. Our club fair / field day is scheduled for October 2nd, so we're doing it both in the same day, which we haven't done before. So that's going to be really fun. I always really enjoy club fair. The Senior Privileges program just started up this year, which is a new program for seniors like me who, if they have a first period study, they can come in late. So at 8:52, I think, and everyone's very happy about that. New Chromebooks were issued this year. They're a lot faster, I think, than the ones that we had last year. And the new water fountain in the school cafeteria is a big hit among the students as well, because they can just bring in their refillable water bottles, and I think we have saved over 2,000 water bottles, plastic water bottles at this point, from being used. And the last thing that we're planning currently, I'm sure you all have heard of the tragic death of Sonny Tropiano. His best friend designed a shirt in his honor, and are selling them. They started selling them to the sports teams first, and all the proceeds are going to the Sonny Tropiano Scholarship Fund. And the student representatives and I are taking control of selling them at the high school during lunch to raise money for the fund. So, yep, that's the last thing. So we're just raising money. We're planning to raise money as well for another water fountain. I think the DPW has a grant for half the money, and we're going to raise the rest so we can install another one. So, thank you.
Does the water fountain keep track of how many bottles?
Yeah, it says right in the upper right corner, so you just put your water bottle there, it automatically turns on and fills it, and you can see it go up as you're filling your water bottle, so it's very satisfying.
Excellent. That sounds great. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time out to let us know what's going on over there. Okay, so we're going to jump down a few and go to the Educatius report.
Nice job.
Every time I say it different.
Sorry.
We currently have 5 students enrolled through the Educatius program. 3 of the students are full year students and 2 of the students are 1 semester students. We have 2 girls and 3 boys representing Italy, Germany, and Spain. And as of the beginning of the school year, all of the students have host families. So we are off and running with that program. We have a new woman who is representing the students this year, and she has worked really well with the high school and my office to ensure that all the paperwork is getting done on time. And the students seem to be happily involved in all life of high school here in Linfield. Right on cue.
There he is. Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the choral trip to New York. Doug Hotchkiss is here to tell us about it. Hi, can you just make sure your microphone?
I apologize for being late. I just had a nice driving tour of Linfield looking for the meeting. So it's nice to see you all again. I am planning this year hopefully to take a group of students to New York City. And you have in front of you a tentative itinerary. And there will be changes made to this based on how we can maneuver different activities around. There's one thing that I will say on this that is not going to happen. The University of Connecticut on Friday, my plan is to go to Yale first in the morning and then go right into the city and try and do something at NYU. Now, I've been in contact with a number of students, former students who have graduated who are working in the city and students who are currently going to NYU, and they're very excited to meet us there and to talk about their experiences in New York. And I'm hoping to do that on Friday during the late afternoon. And then on Saturday we'll get up, we'll do some of the sightseeing, see some of the sights. The Broadway show as we have right now is not yet decided. We're still trying to figure that out and seeing what's going to be available come April. So I know a number of shows are closing and a number of shows are just opening. So that decision will be made very soon. We will be doing a couple of workshops, one at Yale with a gentleman who worked there. And actually it's interesting because my contact through the Yale University Music Department is Sue Penny, for anybody who remembers her. She is now the administrative assistant for both the English and music departments at Yale. So that was kind of fun being in touch with her again. And we'll try and meet with somebody, as I said, a professor at NYU as well. And I've had a number of the former students return their emails to me saying that they can't wait to see the group and do some kind of a question and answer panel with them. And doing the tours that are on there, we'll go to Lincoln Center tour, which is where Bethany Flom currently works with the New York Philharmonic. We'll do a tour of Rockefeller Center and Radio City. Have a little bit of time in Times Square to kind of explore. And then we'll have dinner at Ellen's Stardust Diner on Saturday, followed by whatever Broadway show we end up going to see. And then Sunday we'll get up, we'll have a workshop with Michael Dansiker, who is, he does lots of workshops with different school groups and professional groups throughout the city. We'll hit the 9/11 Memorial on our way out of town, come back, and get back early evening on Sunday the 10th of April, sorry. The cost of the trip is $550. And there will be some fundraising opportunities as we've done in the past with selling pizzas. And we're going to look at, actually have a parent meeting tonight after this meeting is over, and we're going to discuss other fundraising options as well. Does anybody have any questions?
I actually have a couple of questions. First of all, there are no performances scheduled for the students on this trip?
Currently, not as of right now. I could probably schedule one if I wanted to. But we're on such a tight schedule, we're only doing 3 days instead of 4, that I really want to try and get some educational opportunities with the workshops in.
It just, I guess my observation is that there's a lot more on this trip that is tentative than is usually presented to us when we see a field trip. I mean, if you look, I know you're trying to work out the NYU versus UConn, but it also, the Broadway workshop says pending availability, and a couple other things, are tentative, so do you feel confident that all these things are going to work out and it's going to be the trip that you envision?
I do, yes. The only question I might have would be the Michael Danziger workshop, but if that doesn't work out, then we could definitely throw in a performance instead somewhere, instead of doing the workshop with him. But the other things, everything on here, I've talked to the festival company, and it's just a matter of making the puzzle pieces work. But everything that we have here is definitely doable and will be not pending as soon as we get the ball rolling.
So do you feel like you're in the position that you have to be able to start your fundraising before these things aren't pending and it's an established schedule?
No, I think as soon as we have the approval from you, that's what the festival company is waiting on. As soon as we get the approval to run the trip, then he'll be able to schedule everything. But I can't do anything without getting approval.
I understand that. It just seems like a catch-22 to me.
Anyone else? No? Okay, all right, thank you. So, generally, we vote on these at our next meeting.
Mhm.
And does anyone have any reason not to think that we'd vote on it? Or do you want more information at that point? Or it sounds like you're not going to be able to get more information until we get approval.
This is one I would want to think about, but if I'm alone, then I think, then I'm alone.
Mhm.
So that I'm clearly not the majority, so that doesn't matter.
Okay, does anyone else feel? Okay. Yeah, right, yeah, we vote at the next meeting, but there's no reason not to start collecting your
Okay,
funds.
great. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. Sorry about the change of meeting. Keep everyone on their toes. I do the same thing. It's not a town hall. Okay, so the next item on the agenda are the school improvement plans.
So the school improvement plans tonight, you all received a paper copy, which is different than what we have traditionally done since we have adopted the Chromebooks. But I felt that it was really important, given the complexity of everything that is in this document, that you had it in one document. I thought it would be easier for you to be able to see through the entire document. So obviously nothing is in the Chromebook packet in the Google Doc. So a few changes that you probably noticed as you were looking through the documents, just in terms of the presentation of the documents. They really mirror what the presentation of the strategy, the district strategy is, just for ease of being able to have everything looking the same, using the same language. You'll also see that on each of the plans there is also a link to the district strategy. And each one of the schools put in a school improvement plan. Inside this document, you'll find not only the school improvement plans, you'll also be hearing about the school improvement updates from the building principals, and which we will not be speaking about tonight, but for your reference in this booklet is also the MCAS action plans. So we are going to start with the preschool. And for the preschool tonight, we sort of put together a preschool leadership team, if you will. We are looking at this year as a very big year for our preschool, given the fact that there are a lot of changes in our preschool with personnel as well as location. So the team of people that we have working specifically for the preschool is Kara Morrow, our special ed director. We also have Maureen Fennessy, who is our elementary English language arts and social studies curriculum director. And we also have Derek Munyon, who I don't believe has been to the table before. He is a BCBA for our district, and he is instrumental in seeing that the preschool has gotten off to a great start, and he works with those teachers every day in their classroom. So are the three of you coming up together? Okay. Derek, you may just need to pull up one more chair to the table. And they'll be presenting two goals to you this evening.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I did want to start and just give a little bit. Jane did a nice introduction of who I have here with me tonight, but I thought I would just give a little bit more background as to why Maureen and Derek are here with me tonight. So Maureen Fennessy, as you all know, is the ELA and Social Studies Curriculum Director at the elementary level. So I had approached Maureen last year as we were planning all of our changes for the preschool to move to Summer Street, to work with us in a different capacity, as a resource for our preschool staff as they became a member of the Summer Street School professional learning community. Maureen knows the curriculum well. She's shown a particular interest in the development of readiness skills for our preschool students, and I think she'd be a huge resource for that staff on the day-to-day operations. So Maureen and Christina Noche also started some of the professional development work last year. They worked with our preschool staff and as well as preschool teachers from surrounding communities to talk about the preschool standards, curriculum, what we're targeting for both our 3- and 4-year-old groups. So this year she's going to be very specific in just working with our staff in Linfield. And Derek Bunyan, as Jane had mentioned, he's been an integral part in our program development throughout the district. Derek and I have worked closely on the development of our specialized programs across all grade levels, particularly our differentiated learning program, which is currently at Huckleberry Hill, the middle school and the high school. And now down at the preschool, he's played an integral role in developing a similar specialized program for our incoming preschool students. So Derek holds a master's in behavior analysis. He's a board certified behavior analyst, which he talks about in much greater detail than I can, but I know he's huge value added in terms of developing individualized programs and supporting our teachers. So he's been great in working with us this year. So careful thought went into the development of tonight's plan, given all of the changes at the preschool that have taken place over the past couple of years. All of that change has been driven by the students who have come to the preschool, whether through registration, by referrals, or from early intervention. All of that information has driven how we're designing our preschool and planning where we need to go moving forward. I'm pleased that the preschool in general has gone back to really focusing in on the intention of an integrated public preschool, and that is to meet the needs of our special ed population at an early age as they're transitioning from early intervention, and to also provide them an environment that is on point in terms of curriculum. It has exposure to peers and enables our teachers to get an early start with them. So last year, our preschool improvement plan was focused on one goal, and that was to develop a professional learning community at the preschool. There was some progress made towards that goal last year when the preschool was at the Salem Street location, but given all of the changes and the fact that we have an entirely new preschool staff, that goal area was still relevant for this school year moving forward. I'll speak more to that goal in a bit. And then I just wanted to highlight the second goal, which we'll review, was very much focused on curriculum and instruction and data and assessment practices. And Maureen and Derek will get into detail about that. As Jane had mentioned, all of our administrative leadership team has put careful thought into the development of these plans and aligning them to the district strategy that Jane went through with you. So as we go through the action items of each goal area, I'll talk about how that ties into the overall district strategy as well. So that brings me to the first goal. In terms of district strategy alignment, the action items with this goal absolutely tie into building leadership capacity, educator growth, and meeting the needs of all learners. The goal one for this school improvement plan is to form a school culture, professional learning community at the preschool level to ensure high quality early childhood education that is accountable to the schools and the community. And I'll go through each action point for that goal. As Jane mentioned, the preschool was in need of a broader leadership committee or leadership group. In the past, the feedback that I had gotten from previous preschool teachers and that I myself lived was that it wasn't a job that I could just I could do effectively by just adding it on to my role as director of special services. The preschool staff in the past also felt that they didn't have the day-to-day administrative oversight that would be helpful. So we looked at how we could broaden our leadership team to maintain strong oversight of the preschool. So that includes, as Jane had mentioned earlier, myself, Maureen Fennessy as curriculum director, Derek Munyon as program director in BCBA, Christina Ryan, who continues to head up the special education process and is often one of the first faces that our families transitioning from early intervention see, and Jen DeBias, principal of Summer Street School. Jen will play an integral role in setting the stage for Summer Street School as a whole to be welcoming the preschool as part of that professional learning community, and she's already done a great job with that, and we've worked closely with her along that. We are meeting as a leadership team weekly with the faculty and with the two teachers, Lindsay Legender and Amanda Sincata. We've already scheduled those meetings weekly. And we've also, Derek and Christina are doing regular walkthroughs. Derek ran a training for paraprofessionals, so we're staying on top of everyone's role and supporting them in any way that we can. The next action item absolutely ties into the focus of educator growth, and that would be to have our preschool staff participate in the instructional rounds that take place at Summer Street School. And I think Brian and Jen might talk a little bit about that during their presentation, but it was very important for us for the preschool teachers to participate in that process so that they could observe the instructional practices of their colleagues, and that the Summer Street staff could also get down to the preschool and see what's happening down there and really understand all of the great work that's going on in those classrooms. The preschool faculty will implement parent community information sessions regarding the development and milestones for preschool students. This is something that I view as a leadership opportunity for our teachers to share what they know about the developmental readiness of our 3- and 4-year-old students. We have in the past done different parent nights, Child Find, which is we'll offer a screening night where any family who might suspect that their child has a need can come and learn about what the preschool can offer their children. We do home visits. We have a preschool registration night. We have individual parent conferences, all of which allow our teachers to share their understanding of our preschool students. And I know Maureen has had some great ideas too about expanding the work that we're doing at the preschool and sharing that information with parents who might not know what they need to know about Linfield Preschool. So she might talk about that as well. And then again, focusing in on leadership capacity, the preschool leadership team, just that we're meeting regularly, that we're sharing information. We already have a meeting scheduled for the October Professional Development Day to get together as a group and already talk about what's working so far, what's not working. I definitely think there's some logistical things that we absolutely have to work out related to arrival, dismissal, but I kind of look at those as the adult problems, and not that they're any less important, but as far as the student programming, I've never felt better about what we're offering at Linfield Preschool, and I go into those classrooms and seeing the smiles on the faces of the parents at open house and orientation. It's a great thing to see. So I think that we'll work through the kinks, and we're absolutely trying to get in front of that. In terms of the other benefit of those consults, that absolutely with preschool is driving our registration process. It's driving our development of programming. As I said, Christina is often helping with the transition from early intervention. Christina Ryan, our special ed coordinator. So she'll come to the table with all of that information that will help us to project out as best we can to the future. It's difficult with preschool. You're constantly getting enrollment rolling in throughout the year, so it's hard to perfectly plan it out, but we try to do that the best we can. And so I think those leadership consults will be huge for that. So with that, those are the main points that I wanted to touch upon for Goal 1. Goal 2 is very much aligned with the district strategy standards of curriculum and instruction and data and assessment. And I'm going to transition to Maureen and Derek if we're ready for that.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we'll be working on in this second goal. Kara really did a nice job covering the broad scope, but really thinking about this second goal and how it aligns to the district strategy. There's opportunity at every level that's outlined in the district strategy alignment. As far as the work that was completed last year at the preschool level, it was exciting. We reached out to neighboring communities to have other preschool teachers from other integrated programs and private preschools to join our conversations. So we still have some of that work that wasn't quite completed, but that's helping frame the discussions that we'll be having this year. As far as building the leadership capacity, as Kara had mentioned, not only within the teachers themselves, but a lot of our specialists from the special education team, the occupational therapists, the physical therapists, and having that opportunity to share what they know and their expertise to help the students that they're directly servicing, but the greater community of our preschoolers as well. Within this curriculum work, we now have the opportunity to have visits within our early childhood program and visiting K-2 classrooms where we know we have practices in place that are effective for our students, and seeing what it looks like for a 7-year-old, thinking about what it looks like for a 5-year-old, and then down to a 3-year-old, which, to be honest, the 3-year-olds scare me a bit. But having the expertise from the preschool staff and building that bridge and having those conversations about what does that learning look like with these children that are developing so fast, and how do you really keep up with what they're learning at such that rate. And that will bring us into the conversations about curriculum instruction. What exactly are our teaching goals, and how are we teaching it to our students? Are we aligned with practices that they'll see in our elementary classrooms? And that assessment accountability piece that you've heard us speak about so much at the elementary level, how do we know that they've really mastered these skills? Are they just where they're introducing them, and how the children take them on in different ways? So we're excited to have these conversations with the teachers and the greater staff with our preschool. As far as meeting all the needs of students, it's been exciting. I've had the opportunity to already do some collaboration with Tom Weber from the Department of Early Childhood and Care, Early Childhood Education and Care. And there's that bridge between what the state outlines that is good practice for birth to 5-year-olds, but then the DESE outlines what they feel is good practice for 4 to 20-year-olds. So it's kind of taking those two directives and seeing what makes sense for our students. And we're not talking about rigor just for the sake of rigor. We're talking about best development for our young students and having them prepared for the world that's ahead of them. So I'm excited to have this opportunity. The staff has been a pleasure to connect with and to help them acclimate to the community. I really feel is part of our charge this year, and having them see the work that's being done and the work that we can do. So Derek's going to highlight some of the plans for some specific population that we have at the preschool level.
Yeah, so I can just lead in. As part of the information that I was referring to that we gather throughout the school year, there was a need for alternative classroom programming, which Derek has been an integral part of. So I'll just have him speak to the work that's gone into that, the development of that program.
Sure. So as was mentioned, I currently work with the DLP programs at the elementary level, the middle school, and the high school level. And this program right now at the preschool level, we see as sort of the very beginning of that program, not predetermining where kids will end up, but it's a program for students that might have more needs, whether it be medically, cognitively, or disability related. And I think what we saw last year was an influx around May of EI referrals that just the students weren't going to be able to be successful within the larger preschool integrated classrooms. So what we had done was we had the great opportunity to create this classroom and hire an amazing teacher, Amanda Sincata, who's been working with these now 5 students. We just had one more student come in this year, and it's been a wonderful thing to see. I think even just from the start at Salem Street now to moving over to Summer Street, it's been great. So our goal within this program is a lot of our students, in looking at the frameworks for the preschool, some of the frameworks they might not have the prerequisite skills to meet some of those goals. So what we're looking to do in this program is to build up some of those prerequisite skills and hopefully integrate as much as possible. We have a nice location within the school, so the classrooms are directly across from each other, which provides us all of the students access to each other. So that in the morning we have the 3-year-old set up, and most of the children in the DLP program are 3. We have 1 4-year-old student, so it's nice for them to be able to get from one classroom into the other relatively easily. And it also, I think, helps build that relationship between school and community. I know that previously it's been 3-year-old and 4-year-old classes, but I think that by having these classes mixed and kids with varying needs and varying skill sets, I think that it teaches everybody a little something about working with others. As far as specifically for the program and data and assessment and how that goes, we typically, with our program, we have an assessment that we use. It's called the Verbal Behavior Milestones Assessment Placement Program, and what that is it's a behavioral assessment, and it looks at language development and play and social skill development, and how that develops in typically developing kids, and how can we break that down for our students in our more needy classrooms so that they can be successful as well. So, you know, whereas students might be able to come in and hang up their backpacks immediately upon entering preschool, a lot of our students need help physically just taking their backpacks off. So we're trying to break skills down to that level, teach people how to teach the paraprofessionals and teachers how to teach kids these skills, and then how to collect data on those skills. So.
And that's just what Derek just mentioned in terms of the staff. We're really trying to move into the direction of paraprofessionals being very instructional in nature, and he's played such a huge part in training paras to collect data, what to be looking out for, how to intervene, all while trying to promote as much independence as possible. So that's something that I think you can take for granted, but it actually does have to be directly taught in a lot of situations. So again, just feeling really good about our staff as a whole at the preschool right now. So, any questions? I think we've covered mostly everything we could.
Does anyone have questions? Dorothy, you want to start? Oh, yeah.
Too many on.
Oh, okay.
So I just have a quick question going back to the actual plan and looking at the evidence. So is actually one of the pieces of evidence going to be a document that has your mastery learning objectives in it? And so at the end of the year, you'll have the mastery learning objectives?
That would be my goal and my vision. I know Maureen and I have talked about that, just trying to develop that roadmap so that no matter what the staff turnover, that we've made our decision as Linfield Preschool, this is what we're focusing on.
Okay, well, thank you guys. It was
Okay.
very thorough.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And all the work you put in. Elementary next.
So next we have, we're actually going to have Jen DeBias, the principal at Summer Street School, and Brian Bemis, the principal at Huckleberry Hill School, come up and give updates to their current plans and also talk to you or talk to us about what their plans are for this school year.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for giving us an opportunity to share our school improvement plan with you. Jen and I are here to present the school improvement plan for the elementary schools. We'd like to thank our respective school councils for their input, for all the hard work of the teachers that bring our plans to life, and also to the curriculum directors Maureen Fennessy and Christina Noce for their hard work in finalizing this document. Jen and I both feel that the elementary team of teachers, the curriculum directors, and ourselves have outlined 3 challenging goals that will support the vision of the district strategy. The first goal that I'm going to speak about is to maximize student achievement in the area of science. And I believe that many of my talking points will highlight the strategic objectives of building leadership capacity, curriculum instruction, and meeting the needs of all students. As you've seen in our progress update, we began this work a year ago with faculties from both elementary schools working to align our teaching with the new state standards for science and technology. We had many meetings where we determined which units grade levels would hang on to, improve, enhance, not teach at all or begin to teach for the first time. And from there, we had a lot of discussions on what resources they would need to be able to teach these units effectively, what professional development they might need, so that their students could learn successfully. And then the next step last year was to develop a scope and sequence for how and when these units were to be taught. We used what I feel, and Jen feels, was a successful model of in-house professional development to get this scope and sequence completed, provided by Christina Noce, Jennifer Judkins, and also Scott Gordon from the high school. Lessons and units of learning were then discussed by the grade levels designed by the grade levels, and although it wasn't required, by the end of last year, we had some grade levels actually teaching some of these units. And I do want to mention that our specialists, the specialists at both buildings, were very much involved in the planning and designing of units, and will be very much involved this year in the instruction of the science units, which is very exciting for us, the kids, and all the teachers involved. Which brings us to this year. And our goal, as I mentioned, is to maximize student achievement in science, was to build upon the work that we did accomplish last year. And we want to ensure that we have engaging and challenging units of study for our students. And we're very excited about this work. We feel that for the first time in my tenure, we're going to have continuity in our science instruction. It won't be a one and done at each grade level. For example, they'll have animal studies in first grade, then they'll have it again in fourth grade. So they're not just going to see it once and then be heading off to middle school. They'll see these science units a couple of times in a couple of different ways before we get to the middle school. Therefore, better preparing our students for fifth grade and science instruction at the middle school. So this year is really to make sure and make certain that the units that we have meet the needs of the new standards. The expectation is for grade levels to teach 2 or 3 of these units. Many of our grade levels are prepared to teach all of the units this year. And we just really want to solidify that we have what we need, that the teachers have what they need for the students to be successful. And throughout the year, our professional development will be, again, an in-house model, building that leadership capacity for teachers to share effective instructional strategies with each other. So we're looking forward to this work this year. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
So, and just from what you described, which sounds terrific, but then I'm looking at the action items. So, from what you say, the first action item is kind of done? That you've developed the units?
Mm-hmm.
So then the second action item then is that at least 2 to 3 units at each grade level will be piloted or taught this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually asked Christina Noce last week, looking over the plan. I talked to Christina about that first one because it does sound like we're still developing a clear understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So I questioned the wording on that, and she was telling me that it's just to really make sure that
So just like a double check.
yes.
Yeah, okay. And then full implementation.
So just kind of, I'm sorry to interrupt,
That's
just
okay.
more ongoing conversation, just really
Mhm.
making sure that we're ready to go, because the goal is to fully implement these units in the fall of next year.
Okay, so then the that last action item actually isn't this year, it's next year.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the date's wrong.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what.
Yes.
So then some of the evidence that you'll have will be the completed new units, right? Or
Yes.
you already have that? Okay. It's, I think it sounds great, and so, because we've been talking a lot about science in the middle school, that this sounds like it'll be that vertical articulation that we've been looking for in helping that along.
I think the teachers are excited. I know the students very much enjoyed the units that were taught last year, so a lot of hands-on activities for the students. So
Good.
they'll be excited this year.
Thank you.
Did you have a question for science?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Brian, when you, how many units are there? You say you're gonna do 2 to 3.
It depends on each grade level.
Okay, so it varies.
Last year was I'm sorry, they've developed 2 or 3 last year.
Mhm.
So this year it's like 4 to 5 at each.
But they
depending on
vary.
grade
The
level.
units vary at grade level, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, Jamie? Okay. I'm go on to goal 2.
On to goal 2.
Okay, so goal 2, we actually have 2 and 3 which are related to the ELA. But goal 2 is what I'm going to report on progress because goal 3 is completely new. So what we did last year at this time, we started off with the initiative in October. We had both schools. We've done a lot of professional development with both schools so they could meet and collaborate, and then we've done things separate where teams could work on individual things and then come together and collaborate. So we've kind of done a whole medley of different professional development activities. So in October, we had both the schools come together and we had cross-grade level discussion because we had to unpack the rubrics for the reading standards and make sure that everyone understood what they were and really what it looked like in the classroom. Because you can read a standard, but then you have to look and say, how do I implement this classroom? What does it look like? So we spent a lot of time, a full day professional development time, discussing that with grade level teams, cross grade level teams. Then we had several early, the early release days for professional development in February, March, where you had the opportunity the teachers did to refine and reflect. So they'd done all this work, and then we took some time away to come back and say, okay, how are we going to do this? What our instructional practice is going to be? There was a lot of collaboration with grade level teams so that when they looked at a rubric, it looked at something that they were using to score student work, that everyone was consistent in what the expectations were. And so what a lot of teachers did is they shared work of their own students and said, I think this is a 4, or I think this is, a 16 out of 20. They'd give it to a co-teacher, to one of their fellow teachers and say, can you take a look at that for me too, just to make sure that we were consistent with the scoring, what the expectations were, and everyone was using the same language. We also worked on, and also pulling exemplars so that teachers could share, this is what a 4 looks like, this is what a 10 looks like, whatever the scoring was, that everybody had a common language and everyone was looking at the same thing. And we used genuine, authentic student work so that it was something that was current, it was something that was specifically taught. The Director of Language Arts, which is Maureen Fennessy, she continued to work collaboratively throughout the year with the teachers, making sure that people understood the frameworks, that they were being implemented correctly, that there was a common language. And we worked during faculty meetings. We'd spend time throughout the year for grade level collaboration. We had the new curriculum standards because there's so many of them. We took certain specific ones and made sure that we analyzed and discussed them. There's always ongoing analysis and monitoring of student achievement. We do at the grade level with the assessment meetings that we hold quarterly. And we have the literacy support team there too, the tutors. We also use special education staff so we can have a different level of expertise too. And then the literacy support team, Maureen has worked greatly in having them trained in understanding certain ways to assess students because we rely on their data and information as well. So that has been ongoing all of last year. So moving forward to this year, we had to take a look and say, okay, you don't want to keep the same goal and keep going with the same old. So, but we still need to, there's so much work that needs to be done in the ELA that it continues to be a need and a goal for next year. So we drafted a goal for the ELA that really focuses on continuing the common instruction and really refining what we're doing. Some of the highlights, because I know that you read through this and what it is that we're going to be working on, were that we really wanted to add, what's new is we're adding to 3rd and 4th grade Fontes and Pinnell the benchmark assessments. These assessments are going to give us more data that's, I want to say, it gives us a little more information, is a little more authentic than what we were doing previously. We're taking a look at higher level comprehension skills and such. It can give us more useful data that we can use to move forward. So we can use it for grouping kids, we can use it to assess and track progress. So we really like to implement that for 3rd and 4th grade. In order to do that, we have to train teachers and staff on how to administer that. So that's going to require a few of the professional development early release days to do that, to make sure that everyone is trained properly. And we're going to take a look. It's going to take at fluency, so how smoothly children read, accurately in terms of their decoding skills, and also comprehension. We're also looking at foundations. We use that K through 3 and coming up with a systematic way to collect data on that too. And that looks at students decoding and encoding, so their reading and spelling abilities. And this goal obviously is aligned with the strategy with the districts, the leadership capacity. We'd really like to have teachers who have a level of expertise. We actually had a meeting today with the teachers doing a phenomenal job with open responses. So her data coming from her classroom shows her growth model for students is like 86%, which is unbelievable. Using her as the person to say, can you show, can you model, can you teach your peers what you're doing in the classroom? So we're really looking at building the leadership capacity, the educator growth with all the professional development, curriculum and instruction. We know that it's aligned with the MASS frameworks. We've unpacked them, we've dissected them. Assessment and accountability. We have the assessment meetings and we're looking at kids and meeting the needs of all students. So we have a lot of support staff in place depending on what it is the child needs. Do we have kids that are accelerated readers? Definitely. Do we have kids that are holding their own? Definitely. And we have those that are struggling, and how best can we support them? So that's really what the second goal entails. The third goal, does anyone have questions about the second goal?
I do.
Okay.
Jen and Brian, thank you. Third action item, F and P, the Fontes and Pinnell.
Yes.
So that's administered periodically and then more frequently to Progress Monitor?
Ideally, what we'd like to do, pie in the sky, we're starting in December because we have to train.
Right.
We'd like to have 3 assessments throughout the year. So we'd like to do something the beginning of the year, midpoint, December, January, and then having an ending point in the spring.
Okay.
So 3 times a year would be ideal. This year we're going to do twice. We'll do it December and at the end of the school year.
And then in between to Progress Monitor or not?
Well, we can always do checks that we
Right.
need to, absolutely. So it's really, these teachers, let's say the students aren't doing the groupings, the teachers are creating guided reading groups and things like that based on that data. When you do a check with this, you can see growth in students' reading progress, but typically you're not going to see a student progress from like a level M to a level Q without you realizing it. So we do have the reading tutors and support staff if need to, we can do frequent check-ins as needed. All right, and
No,
then,
not quite.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So the assessment that you're adding,
Mhm.
so you're continuing with foundations and adding another assessment. Are you looking at replacing foundations, or is this something that would continue to be an added?
It would continue to be an added. The foundations looks at a different element of kids' reading abilities.
Mhm.
The benchmark Fontes and Pinnell takes a look at the overall reading ability. So you get a guided reading level, you can get a comprehension level. Foundations is more strictly just accuracy with decoding and spelling. It really doesn't hit fluency, it doesn't hit comprehension. So still keeping that in place and then adding the Fontes and Pinnell. And it gives us more rich information in which to guide a student's progress.
Does it add significant amount of time to the time that you're taking to assess the kids?
That's why we're going to be using reading tutors, using classroom teachers. It shouldn't. Each student gets a benchmark. So in the beginning, it could be a little more time.
As you get
Right.
accustomed to using it.
But it's well worth it too. And we have the special ed team too, so they'll benchmark students. So when we looked at the population of students we say by the time we take away the literacy tutors, the special education staff that can benchmark their own students, teachers doing it alongside with the other tutors, we have a lot of people that we can, try to knock out a classroom in like an afternoon. So it can be. It's going to be, that's why we're not really starting it to December, because it's labor intensive in terms of training staff. We have the materials, Maureen has everything all ready for the staff to get going on it, but it will be in the beginning because it will be new, so.
So then in a lot of the action items and your evidence are really, the evidence is that you've sort of implemented the action items. So then in the evidence of if you're making progress on the goal, will you be looking at student growth? And then do you have, is that based on your interim assessments, based on the spring 2016 MCAS or whatever the assessment is?
Right.
Based on 2015, or how will you measure whether you're being effective in the activities that you're putting in place?
There are, when you look in a typical classroom, the level, depending on what level, because assessment looks different K-1 than it does 3 and 4. It can be used in conjunction to determine progress. So we'll do this 3 times a year to get an idea of student growth. But in the interim, you could use daily assessment in the classroom. So they're constantly doing small assessments in the classroom. They can do practice MCAS passages, let's say in 3rd grade, and you can get an idea of an understanding if a child is getting all the multiple choice questions right or not. So the Fontes de Pinnell gives you almost like a standard measurement for every child, and you can track the growth that way in conjunction with other things. It lets you know, it gives us another indicator if we're on the right track with a student. And we get a lot of this data from the reading tutors. That's a lot of what they do. They complete running records on students and things, but we haven't done it for the whole population, and that's what we really would like to see. And then you can, and it's accurate. I used it as a special education teacher. It was my Bible. I was constantly doing running records, and it's a great resource and a great wealth of information, because you can also analyze the data and take a look at, well, where's the kid falling apart? So it's not just taking a letter grade. It's saying, here's a letter grade, but that fluency, and then we can group kids in fluency groups, and kind of, you can use the data to kind of approach kids from any angle.
So, but in the big picture, not just the Fontes and Pinnell, but in the big picture of wanting to make sure that you're fostering student growth in English language arts, you've outlined a bunch of strategies. How will you know if those strategies are effective in the goal that you want to reach?
Is there anything specific in one of the action plans?
I guess, how do you know if you reach the goal? I mean, you have a goal, which is back here. Increase achievement, academic achievement in English language arts. So how do you know if you're increasing achievement in English language arts?
Well,
am I?
Yeah, but I think that the Fontes and Pinnell is just one piece of data.
I understand
and if
that.
we're looking
So
at
so how in the big picture do you know if you've reached your goal? Can someone help with that?
Yeah, I think what you guys want to do is at the evidence required at the end,
Right.
you're going to want to say, you looked at the assessment throughout the year, so kids started at A and ended at Z. I think that's what Dorothy's looking for. So under evidence required, you talk about, you list these 4 bullets here. You probably need a 5th bullet that says something to the effect of, through assessment, we were able to determine that the students progressed or regressed.
So, right.
Or that there was more student growth this year than last year based on implementing these new strategies.
And so the evidence that will support that they know will be the data sheets. So we have the data sheets going back from 1st grade with the benchmarks of where students have been since we've started looking at the data. So the data sheets will be that evidence to show, since they implemented this, right, these kids were working at this level and now they're working at that level. So it's a culmination of all of the different data at the grade level, and the data sheets will be the thing that will show that evidence, because that's where all of the data has been kept for the past 5 years. Does that make sense? Okay.
And we also look at the data from year to year. So if we know where kids need to be at the end of 3rd grade. So we can look and say what percentage of kids met that, and then the following year say, wow, we have a larger percent that met that, and move forward that way too. In 1 year, it's going to be difficult to do that, but then we can see over time the progression at each of the levels. Because we know at the end of 3rd, we want kids still end in M. How many did that? So, and it's a culmination of everything, because we can never say that one thing is what did it, especially when it comes to reading with comprehension, fluency, and everything else.
I understand it's very complex, but I guess my question is, how do you make sure that your strategies are getting you where you want to get? And unless you sort of think about how are we going to look at it, then how do you know? So, thank you.
Sure. And then the second goal came out of the ELA Curriculum Review Committee that met last year. It was a steering committee that had teachers and directors on each of the levels meet to go and review ELA and look and see, is there a continuing, what do we see at each of the levels? Are we addressing everything at each level? So it was to develop and implement a continuum of instruction for teaching vocabulary. So this one is a completely new goal that has been added, and using the best practices for vocabulary instruction. It has to be discussed, it has to be modeled and implemented across all the disciplines. So this again is the kind of thing where this is almost starting that's why it's starting in January, because there's work that needs to be done with the basics of determining the number of words that need to be at each level. Identifying words that are taught to mastery. And these aren't going to just be vocabulary words that are taught in isolation, like these are 5 science words, these are whatever. So they need to be vocabulary words that the kids are going to see throughout the curriculum in each of the grade levels. Also talking about the Greek and Latin affixes and the roots for mastery that really plays a huge role in vocabulary development. So not just teaching a word for the sake of a word, but understanding the meaning of the word. And then district-wide distribution of a completed continuum for vocabulary instruction. So this is really starting at the beginning and determining how we're teaching vocabulary, how we're doing at each grade level, and then going through and determining that we have it going through the continuum of K to 12. There's going to be the district-wide modeling of the best practices for teaching vocabulary. The biggest thing is the specialists will also be a part of this, which is exciting because the specialists can also use the language too, so that their kids are seeing it across the curriculum. And that's the whole thing, is we don't want vocabulary to be taught in isolation and say, okay, we have 25 minutes today, we're going to learn 3 new vocabulary words. That it's really, children are learning the vocabulary authentically, and they're hearing it several times throughout the week. And there are certain ways to go about this, and that's why they want to kind of take a look at models that are best practices for teaching vocabulary instruction. And it's not going to be a curriculum in a box, because it can't, and it's not going to answer all the questions that we need answered in terms of vocabulary, but that seemed to be, from the steering committee, what seemed to be lacking the most in instruction, specific instruction, is in vocabulary.
Dorothy has a question. No, you don't.
I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead, were you going to say something?
No,
So, with regard to the 2014-2015 work of the ELA curriculum review committee, did they just look at content and curriculum materials, or did they look at instructional practices and pedagogy? And if they did, what do we have now based on the work last year that might be different, new, and improved?
It actually was everything, because it wasn't, at the time when the committee was looking at it, they had every level represented and every director represented. And one of the biggest questions were, how are you teaching vocabulary? And at the middle school, they were teaching it differently than the elementary school. So it is actually going to be an entire process of having that discussion between now and December. What's the best practice for teaching vocabulary? And that's what the directors are in consultation and discussion with, because they don't have, at this point, we don't have like a specific strategy that we're using, but rather taking from different resources. We have several teachers that are in the training for the Sheltered English Immersion program that teaches a component of vocabulary instruction. So there's some teachers that have demonstrated and modeled those lessons. Is that a best practice? So really kind of taking a look at all of it. Sure.
To the whole book? To the elementary plan.
okay. Go ahead.
So one of the things that we heard, and this is less about what's on here and what's not versus what's not on here, because I feel like one of the themes that we heard a lot throughout the year last year, it was in your entry plan findings, was a bit of a hole around the specialty areas. Lacking professional development. I look at our strategy alignment. We've got, I think we all agree that we've got great teachers, individual teachers, but not a lot of direction in that area. When we look at educator growth and meeting the needs of all students, it's something that I've noticed. We've heard a lot about. I'm wondering why, and it's a theme throughout the district. But can you guys kind of talk about your thoughts on that? Why that isn't on here? Or how do we know that's not a blind spot for the year?
I'm not sure I understand the question. As far as specialists?
Yeah, so we've got art and music, and we don't have department heads, curriculum leaders. I'm looking at the entry plan that they could benefit from leadership and guidance in terms of vertical alignment, shared vision, and philosophy. I think we focus very heavily on math, reading, and science, or ELA and science. which I think is important. But I think there's a whole element of the curriculum that is often overlooked.
So I'm going to jump in here. So I do agree with you. That definitely came out on the entry findings, but also under the strategy for year one, it is definitely there to put a schedule together to be looking at those areas, the specialty areas, as well as some of the other areas that we've not spent the time on over the years. And you will see that rolled out over years 2 and 3. And in terms of them being part of the greater community, I do think that the elementary level has highlighted tonight a couple of areas where the specialists are very, very much involved in this curriculum, and Brian wants to jump in.
And I would like to add that many of our specialists have led professional development on some of those half-day Wednesdays and at faculty meetings. They lead the meetings, and they are very much involved with, like we said earlier, implementing and instructing all three of the goals that we've mentioned today. And they're also a part of grade level team SMART goals. The specialists are, so they may not have the leadership as far as a department head, but they're taking the leadership role on their own, and they're getting involved with the grade level teams. The grade level teams are inviting them to be a part of their goals. So they're very much involved.
And as a district, we're certainly not where we want to be with that, but with some of the things that are happening at the elementary level, I think we're going in the right direction.
Anyone else? Good? Okay, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have Mr. Ralston, Stephen Ralston. He will come to the table and he will share a progress update for this year, in addition to the 3 goals that he is envisioning for the middle school for the 15-16 school year.
Thank you. Do you have a preference in the order? Should I provide the update first or the goals first?
Why don't you do the update first, then we
Update
can go
first.
into the goals.
Very well. First, I'd like to start with an update of our goals from last year for the Linfield Middle School School Improvement Plan. We had 2 primary goals. Goal number 1 was improvement on MCAS examinations on specifically math and science. We put forth a continuation of some best practices, some strategies that we've used in the past and certainly modeled from the elementaries and some of our own improvements. We continued with our math and our ELA tutorials, and we can also continue with our curriculum mapping initiatives. And, going on to the science piece, as it's been mentioned before, we're in a little bit of flux with the science curriculum over about a 2 or 3 year bringing the new standards in, but we're doing it in the middle school very intentionally because there are certain topics that may have been taught in grade 5 that are now in 7, or something that was in 7 is now in 6. So as we're moving our students through over the next couple of years, we're making sure that we don't have duplication, and we also don't have any gaps in the science curriculum. So that's a lot of the things that we had put forth last year. As I get into the goal for this year, some of those will continue. We also have a few additional things I'll mention with the goals for this year. Our second goal last year to provide an update was a revision of our statement of purpose, and we had some remnants. Many of these statements at the middle school were in existence before I came on board 11 years ago. And as I've mentioned to the committee in the past, we've had some of these grandiose statements that try to say everything, but in the end really say nothing. And what does it mean to a 10 to 14-year-old child? So what we really tried to do over the last couple years is boil down our vision, our core values for the middle school student, to put it in terms that a student can understand. So we went with the acronym of STARS, S-T-A-R-S, for self-advocacy, tolerance, achievement, respect, and service. And One thing that we've had in place for many years is our Star of the Week program at the middle school, and we've redesigned that this year, that as students are nominated by faculty members for Star of the Week, there will be a checkbox for which part of STARS they've really hit on, because these are the 5. We really tried to boil it down, and through lots of conversations and feedback, students, staff, parents, it's really tough. I mean, we could have a 25-letter word, and it's just, well, what about this? What about that? So we really tried to keep this simple, keep it to something that we want students to further develop in the middle school, or in some cases really start with. We felt very strongly about the self-advocacy piece, as well as the service piece. A few years ago, we put into place a middle school service program, and that was a real big hit last year, and we're bringing that in year by year with the hour requirement, and really hopefully instilling that sense of ownership in the community, sense of service that will follow students as they go through high school and then on to adulthood. So that's my update for these 2 goals. If there's any questions on that, I will field those. Otherwise, go into this year's goals. Okay. So we have 3 goals mapped out for this year. Our first goal is to enhance performance on our comprehensive stated exams. We stated that intentionally because we don't yet know if we're going to be doing MCAS or PARCC. We just got a memorandum on Friday of last week that the Department of Education, I believe, will vote on that November 17th. So be that as may, we go forward with the frameworks and the Common Core, teaching to the standards, and whatever the Department of Education determines in November, we will certainly be prepared for that. This first goal really touches upon our curriculum instruction, assessment and accountability, and meeting the needs of all students for the district strategy. Many of the action items that you see listed here are already deeply in progress. We will be presenting, myself and our curriculum coordinators, our directors, will be presenting our MCAS action plan for improvement, I believe, October 6th. So many of the things that we have spelled out here, you'll see as part of the plan coming up in a few weeks. We have expanded our math and ELA tutorials this year. We were fortunate enough to add an additional math and ELA tutor, so we're up to a total of 6 in the middle school, 3 of each, and we're finalizing those lists of students who are qualifying for those services, and we'll have those started up in the next couple of weeks. The other thing I'd like to mention is a lot of our professional development has gone along around literacy strategies, not just in math and ELA, but science and across the board, and really trying to use our keys to literacy, using the technology we have at our fingertips, and using the assessment model to forward our scores. The evidence here is very obvious. It's how we perform on the exams, both our percentage of students in the advanced proficient range as well as our subgroup advancement. As far as the subgroup advancement and our AYP, adequate yearly progress, I will tell you right now, when we report in early October, I don't know that I will have AYP data. Again, on Friday's memo from the Department of Education, that's being pushed back, those school level determinations. I think what they're trying to do is have the schools that chose to do MCAS in the spring, as well as the schools that had PARCC, they're trying to have that all released at the same time as far as the accountability level. And So I think that's something that we'll just have to stay tuned, and I'll certainly be willing to report that and share that, when I have that available. But I don't think I'll have it on October 6th. Our second goal is both a school goal. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be easier to do it while you're talking about
Oh, sure.
it. Go back to it. And I understand the frustration of the park release that keeps getting pushed back, which, on a couple of the action items, the development of common assessments and the curriculum mapping initiatives with the understanding by design.
Yes.
Are there like particular grade levels, particular subject areas that you sort of have, these are the ones we want to get done this year? Or
It's ongoing work. Right now we have, it's basically the quick answer, it's all levels, all subjects, including art, media, STEM, foreign language. It is, it's across the board. Now I know we don't have MCAS for those, but that work is ongoing for all subjects, all grade levels. And we are at the point with our curriculum mapping initiative where every subject, every department is at a certain level, at the end of stage 1, stage 2 right now. And, I would certainly, welcome coming back and going through this in more detail. But, as far as enduring understandings, essential questions, kind of jumping ahead, we'll have our vocabulary here as well. And getting into different accommodations, all of our assessments, everything's going to be housed in this format, and it's completely transparent within the middle school for everyone to see.
So, but in your mind, you have like either a grade level or a department or a part of a professional learning community knows the work that they have outlined for this coming year.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I can also tell you that different grade levels and/or different departments are further along in the process than others.
Right. But everybody sort of knows where they want to be. by
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. Jamie?
Steve, in looking at this, it doesn't look like there's a lot of change from last year in terms of the plan, which I think is a reflection of we've got a good plan in place and we need to keep working the plan.
Absolutely.
Do you foresee, and obviously we don't know what the results are yet, do you foresee anything that could have to change based on when the results come out?
Well, I've seen the preliminary results. I certainly can't disclose those, but I've seen some things that I'm very, very pleased with, and there's certainly some areas identified that we're going to hone in on and focus a little bit more attention on.
Go ahead, goal 2.
So the second goal is both a school goal as well as a personal goal for myself, and that is to enhance communication within the middle school community. Really focuses probably the most on the educator growth and the accountability part of the district strategy. And we have lots of different avenues and lots of different things and ways, means that we've been communicating. We're constantly trying to improve upon that, and by making this a formal goal, really just, I think, amps up our intention and our desire to reach out better, and in some cases, differently than we have with the community. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, you're all welcome to come to my first principal coffee. I'll be hosting monthly coffees in our cafeteria for parents to come by, and we'll have different topics to discuss. Tomorrow we're going to talk a lot about communication as well as transition, and kind of get a sense from the parents anecdotally how the transitions have gone, whether it's elementary up to grade 5 or between the grades that we already have in our school. We're also going to follow the lead on the postcards that the high school has started the pilot last year, is sending out quick notes to parents, based on, a quick accolade for, students performance, effort, great job on this. Some of these may go right along with our stars and the things that students may be nominated for Stars of the Week for. Last year, our sixth grade science team, the three teachers, had a science showcase at the end of the year that was very, very well received. And we want to build upon that and incorporate other subject areas, but then also maybe expand that into the upper grades so we can have more parent interaction in the school and not have it be solely grade 5 and then really kind of taper off. But your children may not admit this as 7th or 8th graders, but they do want you involved. They do want you in the school. They might, be shy and say, "Oh my gosh, my parents in the school, what are they doing here?" But it's something that we would like to have more opportunities and build upon what the 6th grade science teachers did last year. That was really very well received. Myself, Ms. Shanklin, and our directors are looking to have random or not so random phone calls, reach out to parents rather than always be reactionary, be more proactive and check on how things are going, and certainly eliciting feedback that way. And then one other thing that would be a little bit of an enhancement, and I was thinking back to 10 or 11 years ago when I first started, we had our 15-page printed PTO collated newsletter, and they would come in and make the copies and fold it and staple it and get the postage and mail these out. And we morphed into an electronic version with accompanying postcards. Now we have the newsletter with the accompanying email blast that has the link where you can find it. And then this year, our newsletter is more in the format of a blog that Mrs. Shanklin has set up, and will be changing things on the blog a little more regularly than monthly. So we're trying to, keep up with the times, keep up with current trends, and certainly be cognizant of, what our parent customers want in terms of communication. I mean, you may have parents who want the printed paper, and others will go to the website and they'll bookmark it. Others want an email blast, some want a text message, some want to follow on Twitter. So there's, all these different things, and we're trying to touch upon those and certainly reach as many people as efficiently and effectively as we can. So our evidence here is really going to be, as we go through the year, soliciting that feedback from parents and from the middle school staff on our efforts here for the communication. Are there any questions about goal number 2?
Steve, thank you. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the process on the check-in phone calls? What prompts that?
It might be a case where, I may have had a conversation with a parent over the summer that had some reluctancy or had some concern about science in the next grade, or is my child, going to how they might transition into the next grade, and following up, because we have notes on anyone that we've spoken to. So I think maybe starting off, or that would be a good jumping off point. Also, as we sit in meetings, or as we are in classrooms, if we see things within the students, hey, I've noticed, I'll give a call to the parent. I was in math class today, and I was really pleased to see your son, had his hand up and was volunteering. And I remember 2 years ago, that wasn't always the case. So, so that, those are, I guess we don't have a strict formula for what might prompt a call.
So the postcards are perhaps for more, so recognition notes, obviously, what you just described about the student participating, that would prompt the postcard.
But it also could prompt a call as well.
Would the check-in phone calls be based more on maybe behavioral transgressions?
Not necessarily. I mean, and we're also looking to make a lot of those phone calls as positive as we can.
Right.
because all too often you fall into the trap of calling when something's wrong.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, you said that this was a personal goal of yours. Just out of curiosity, was it prompted by feedback from the middle school community, like the parents, that they weren't getting sufficient communication from you guys, or is this more to prompted on your end to establish a better relationship?
I think there was it's kind of twofold. There's a recognition that we can do things a lot better, but then certainly feedback from the from Jane's entry plan and the feedback that she got from the community as well.
As far as your evidence is concerned, the feedback from the parents and the staff, how do you plan to collect that evidence?
Probably in terms of, we haven't mapped that out exactly, whether or not we do a formal survey, share like a Google form or a Survey Monkey type thing, or if we start to, collect, feedback, through a PTO meeting, through the coffees, through some of the, anecdotally, if we have a 5th or 6th or 7th grade event where we have lots of parents coming in and looking at a showcase, talking to the parents and, before and after in the hallway and getting feedback that way as well.
Okay, thank you. Goal number 3.
Goal number 3, yes. This also falls in line. It's essentially the middle school version of the district vocabulary instruction goal as a result of the work of the ELA Curriculum Review Committee over the past year or so to maximize student achievement across all disciplines. This really hits upon the educator growth, curriculum instruction, assessment accountability, and meeting the needs of all students for the district strategy. Not to repeat anything too much that Jen and Brian had mentioned, but to highlight maybe a couple different things here. Last year we did have some teachers at the middle school pilot a vocabulary template that the high school had been using on vocabulary and context. So, the work of the committee was very widespread over these, the past year or so, and where the English teachers were really getting into each other's classrooms across buildings, and that was really nice to see. And, as we go forward in future years with other disciplines, I mean, the ELA teachers and the ELA directors are really, kind of forging a path that, other disciplines will be able to follow. As far as the some of the things here, the action items determining the number of words, the Greek and Latin affixes for mastery, what will be used. Obviously where we have a very different structure from the elementary schools, a lot of this will, where you might have a single teacher teaching all of the core subjects. Here we're at the middle school, we're team-based, so if you're in 5 or 6, you have 3 core teachers. If you're in 7 or 8, you have 4. And really using our team model to work across the disciplines where you have the science, math, English, and social studies teachers working together. Look, we're not, if we're going to work on 10 words this week, they're not all going to be science words. There's going to be some certainly discussion and some give and take there. So it's really across, all the disciplines. We'll certainly continue with, where we've had our Keys to Literacy initiative now for a couple years at the middle school. There is a Keys to Literacy vocabulary component that we're going to be utilizing and seeing to what extent that can help move us forward. In our Keys to Literacy piece, again, as I mentioned, all of our teachers have been doing this, so the kids are getting a common experience, a common set of graphic organizers, common, and now going towards common vocabulary, and they're seeing these words, or they will see these words in more than one subject area, which will certainly, I would imagine expedite the mastery of those. We will also document all of our vocabulary in our Atlas program along with our curriculum maps. So that's work still to come. But we really see ourselves as, you know, a bridge between the elementary and the high school in terms of vocabulary. We'll have dedicated professional development time for this, as well as department time. Our two directors are working very closely, Kate Robertson, our ELA and social studies director, as well as Katie Ambrose, our STEM director. And this year they are both roommates. They are now in the new middle school curriculum center, which is in my former office. I moved to another space within the main office. So we have a curriculum center with both directors, conference table, all of our resources. We'll be having our assessment meetings there. And it's really been, we haven't had our formal assessment meetings yet, but just even in the first 2 weeks of school, it's been a great drop-in center that we're having teachers and teams of teachers coming down, whether it's a team of 3 people from across different disciplines, or the 2 social studies teachers in grade 7 coming down during a common planning time, working in there together, you know, with Kate. So there's, it's really a nice, welcoming, collaborative environment. So we're really hoping to utilize that to the full extent. And then I do know that we have a joint middle school, high school ELA faculty meeting coming up, I believe, in either November or December of this year, to help, you know, put some things in place and finalize some discussions. So I would welcome any questions or comments.
I know this is a goal that spans all 3 schools, so since we're in the middle, I'll make my comment. Because when I think back to the past, this is the only time I can ever think of all 3 schools at the same time looking at some curriculum initiative that was going to go all the way through. And I would like to compliment the schools for working on that together, and the curriculum team that's leading it, because I think it's a great initiative to see it starting and going all the way through in a very thoughtful way at the same time in all the different schools.
Thank
you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, last but not least, now we have Mr. Cleary, Bob Cleary, the principal at the high school, and he is going to come to the table and share the 3 goals that he has planned for the coming school year, as well as give a progress update as to the goals for this year.
Thank you, Jane. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to talk about our school improvement plans. As a brief update from last year's plan, the 2 goals dealt with technology and SAT. Obviously, our technology is moving right along. A lot of feedback from students and teachers alike. We made the move. Last year we had half the school in iPads, half the school in Chromebooks. This year all students have a Chromebook as their personal device. We've also managed to take a lot of the old iPads, move them onto carts, so they're still available within the building. Different subjects, areas can take those at any time they need if there's specific apps or projects that might work better on an iPad. But I think overall, the general feeling of students, excuse me, is the versatility of the Chromebook, especially the ability to word process on it. You know, it was one of those things that we felt even last year. You know, we did some surveying, and I think it was that classic, if you had an iPad, you liked an iPad. If you had a Chromebook, you liked a Chromebook. When you look at the amount of Chromebooks, though, that we had on a cart in the media center, were constantly being taken out like a book as students that might have an iPad and were working on a project or something. They were using those Chromebooks as it went through. So I think we've got a nice combination right now of where we're at with everybody using a Chromebook. We've also had a handful of students this year that said thanks but no thanks, and have been either bringing in their own device, mostly laptops. I think as some kids have a different learning style or have a level of comfort with their own device. I think ultimately everybody's goal is to probably do a bring your own device. Any school we talk to, I think that's really kind of our whole goal, is to really kind of get away from a dedicated device that we're all either supplying or asking people to buy. But I think our staff has been using a lot of our professional development time to look at a lot more curriculum and content that will kind of make us a little more device agnostic to be able to not worry so much about what the device is, but to be able to access that, whether it's through a Chromebook or through an iPad or through a phone or through a laptop as we get going. Deployment went very simply. One of the beauties of the Chromebook, I think, is really its ease of deployment, its ease of management, where there's not the updates, not all the things that have to happen in an iPad that we kind of are constantly battling with right now. And part of what we're doing with our iPad carts are really kind of giving teachers the freedom and the responsibility to kind of keep those carts updated, and if they need help. Again, we're lucky that our staff is pretty tech savvy, so they're able to do that, but obviously if they need help with that, our IT department is always right at the ready to help out whenever they need it. Our SAT goal update, I think there's a number of things. Our data teams in ELA and math did an awful lot of work last year as they analyzed our PSAT results, as we can see a little more detailed results from PSAT. But obviously looking at SAT results, you don't quite get the kind of detail from College Board that you get in the PSAT. But I think being cognizant of where our kids are and how they're performing has been important to those data teams as we look at where we're moving forward on that. We had the successful implementation of AP Language in our junior year. So I think the feedback at this point has been super positive from students who took the class. AP results look pretty solid on that. I think we're going to be a year out before we see results in SAT. Obviously, the results we see this year that we'll give you in a few weeks are really last year's seniors that took it the year before as juniors. So there was still kind of like almost a year and a half delay there. But we're hoping that the AP Language will obviously help out as far as what we do. And I think, again, some of the strategies from the AP Language teacher, then to be able to talk to the other junior class teachers that are teaching American literature there, there's an awful lot of carryover and I think a lot of sharing as far as we look at different methods and things that are going on in the AP Language class and try to implement those. And again, you've heard obviously the coordination with the ELA Review Committee as far as what we're doing, not just with vocabulary, but on a lot of other parts of our AP and our ELA education. One of the things that we also have implemented is an increase in time writing. We talked about identifying an incident that we've been so focused on trying to get our kids ready for MCAS, where it's an untimed writing, and we felt that was an area of focus for the SAT doesn't do that. You get that 25 minutes, it's a timed writing sample. And I think a lot of things as we've looked at that is trying to balance out that we kind of have the different types of writing and different types of timed or untimed writing assignments to give kids a little more versatility in what they have and what their experiences are there. Obviously, both Mary Lou Sambatakis and and Mary Ellen Yanabelli have been to a number of conferences, as have our guidance department. And we look at the new and updated SAT, also the updated PSAT that we're going to be giving, we're going to be doing in school this year. It's actually, PSAT is everything is in school. It's on that Wednesday that's happening this year. But we're looking to administer it for both sophomores and juniors. But we've also put a lot of time and effort in. I think we're trying to balance out. Obviously, we've still got students that may be taking this fall are still taking the old SAT, but we're also trying to gear up and make sure we're ready when the new SAT hits us in March, and obviously the new PSAT that's going to be coming right now in October. So hopefully we're going to get some data from the PSAT administration to utilize as we kind of move forward into that March, April, June new SAT in the spring for our current juniors as we look at that. So that's kind of an update of last year's. Any questions on that real quick?
Just real quick, Bob, how did we do versus the goals in SATs? And I know we're going to go in depth in a few weeks on this, but versus your expectations and where we are looking at this second goal.
Sure. Well, I think we're really pleased with what we've been able to accomplish, what we've done, and kind of how we've implemented it. Obviously, when we look at SAT results, those numbers preliminarily are increased. It's always difficult, though, Jamie, as you look at that. Is that a cohort group that's a little stronger? Is that some of the things that we've done? So I think that's another reason why we need to obviously analyze some of that data. But that next set of data that we'll analyze are going to be this last group of kids taking SAT. So it's kind of where it's important to us, but there's a part of that that I don't know how much impact that has with the newly designed SAT, because there's going to be some different things that we do there. But obviously, we're always looking to see where we can improve. But I think right now the numbers will look pretty favorable for us.
Good.
We're pretty happy with it. Other questions?
This is not quite fully related, but couple years ago, we had implemented sort of a writing lab if kids could have a study with their English teacher. Is that still in place, or is that?
Yes, it is. That's morphed in. I'll talk about it a little bit actually in the new school improvement plan too, as we look at our writing center and kind of how we have that implemented, and that's kind of evolved over the years, and that's hopefully going to evolve even more as we get forward with some of our internship stuff. That's a great question. Questions other than that? We'll jump in then. Okay. This year's school improvement plan, goals 1 and 2 really are about more about just giving students expanded opportunities and obviously looking at some alternative opportunities for students to work on their education. And then that third goal is at this point, I think we've kind of talked quite a bit about the vocabulary and the common district goal as we look at it. Goal number 1 for us is about exploring alternate educational experiences, broaden student learning opportunities in non-traditional ways. The basis of this really is, as we've talked about it for a couple of years, but I think we're really excited and energized about putting together a senior internship program. And we've really got 2 different facets of this that we look at. There's kind of, I hate to say traditional because we're talking about non-traditional education, but the classic internship of at the end of the school year, students will put together some sort of proposal. They'll look to move out of the building, look to work in a place of business or an area of interest, and put together some sort of experience and then talk about a culminating experience. And I think we're excited about that. We laid some of the groundwork on this in our class meetings at the beginning of the first week of school. And we've already had a number of students who have come up to both Mr. Sear and myself and already have some ideas and things that they're excited and energized about trying to do. But another part of that also is that we've talked about looking at experiences right in the building. Obviously, you've heard enough of us over the last couple of years, the success of our student help desk with our IT stuff. But I think, Dorothy, directly to your question, when we look at the evolution of our writing center, we've talked about our National Honor Society has always done tutoring before school, after school. We're talking about, at this point, a couple of the English teachers looking to kind of spearhead the writing center. Obviously, the number of periods that they can be available is limited. But to look and take a look at some of our student leaders, whether they're National Honor Societies, whether they're seniors that are identified as high-performing students, or just students that write well and do a nice job with that and want to get involved, possibly in education or just love writing. But we're looking at expanding that writing center, so we'll have student writing center tutors as we look at it during the school day. So if there's a student that has a free period, rather than just sitting in the cafeteria and working on their homework or kind of just hanging out and not getting something done, they're giving that back to the community, kind of getting a chance to kind of work with our underclass students to give them an opportunity if they've got difficulties or they've got questions about writing, and not only sharing their expertise in writing, but obviously a lot of those students have had the same book or had that same story and have been through that experience in the past. So I think we're excited about utilizing our students in the writing center. We've also talked about in our biology and our science labs of kind of like a lab technician, and really kind of utilizing our students to be sort of TAs in the building and working with our underclassmen and wherever we want to go. Part of, I'm kind of rambling all over the place, but part of this, our internship program, as we've talked about looking at, is there some things we can do with our schedule to try to promote addition of this. We've done it over the years. We've done a number of kind of special projects. Foreign language has done it. ELA has done it, as we've had high school students that have gone down to the middle school or the elementary school and worked with students on specific projects. But obviously with our rotating schedules, sometimes that's hard to coordinate and to get sort of regular involvement. So if we've got students that may be interested in going into education, to kind of give them an experience to work with elementary school kids or a middle school age kid, if we can give them that opportunity to possibly later in the day, whether they leave early and whether it's a last period or a period before that they can get out and do that and try to make that consistent, where unfortunately now that period rotates around, so it might be first period one day, last period the next. So one of the things we're looking at obviously is to see is there a way to kind of take a look at our schedule? And we've gone through this on a number of occasions. I think we're always looking to see what we can do and improve opportunities for our students. So we're always analyzing our schedule to see if there's things that we can tweak and take the things that we like about it and some of the things that we're frustrated by and see if we can combine those and come up with some sort of hybrid schedule, or if we can just be more flexible with the schedule that we have as to how we can get those students released and coordinate with the elementary and middle school level as we look at some of those. Again, part of what we're looking at, we talked about teaching aids, writing labs, science lab techs, obviously our help desk. We're talking about makerspace also as we look at our robotics club. There's a number of different ideas and interests that we're looking at students to have as we kind of go by, as we move forward and try to get our students involved in that and kind of give them as much ownership as we can in some of these projects as we look at that. Obviously, there's been a big interest in our athletic program, obviously with the new Fields project. And I think the same thing as we look at students that want to get involved, whether it's in sports information management. There's some opportunities there as we look at students possibly getting in, whether it's videotaping games, things that are going on, or commentating on that, or again, updating the website to look at sports information, or again, some of it may just be helping the athletic director as far as game management goes, as far as setting up. Obviously, if you ever see in the afternoon out there, there's 4 or 5 different games going on at different venues all around. So it's to try to utilize and give our students that ownership and get them involved in whether it's out in the fields or in the weight room or in the gym as we do set up and administration of games. So that's kind of where we're looking at this point. We've got a group of about 6 people right now that are on the internship committee. We've reached out, we've talked to a number of different schools already. So we've got some different templates, and now it's a matter of really kind of sitting down and kind of picking the best of all those and figuring out where we want to go. And again, a lot of it is also getting student input, because I think a big part of this is having it be driven by the students. When you look at especially some of the internships and kind of proposals that students are going to come up with, we really, although we want structure to it, we also want to leave it wide open and be as flexible as possible to give kids opportunity. If someone's really wants to think outside the box and come up with an opportunity, we want to be able to support them the best way we can as we move forward on that. Questions? I know I kind of rambled and jumped all over the place there.
Will this be an opportunity for all grade levels, or are you focusing?
Right now, it's going to be seniors. So at this point, as far as what we're looking at, especially the leaving school, going out and doing a classic internship, we're going to restrict that to seniors at this point. I think as we look at, obviously, the in-school things, much like our student help desk, that can be students from any grade level. But I think, again, the overall idea is obviously just looking for alternative avenues for our students to kind of explore an interest or an educational or a vocational avenue as they're looking at it.
So the intention is to have a small group kind of try it out this year and then
Sort of
next
pilot
year
and see where we're doing it and kind of work out the kinks and what we want to do and kind of see, and again, just take ideas as we move forward with this. I think a big part of it is we don't know what we don't know. So it's really a matter of getting students involved with it and then finding out, hey, what did you like about that? Or what would you like to expand on that? Or what didn't work on that? And then as we kind of keep moving forward with that plan. So obviously it's not just a single year school improvement plan. Yeah, Tim.
Bob, I have a couple questions. I'll
Sure.
I'll bang them out one by one. You said you're probably going to do it in the second half of the year for the students that want to go off campus, or is that going to
Right, so we're looking at anybody that's going to go off campus. We're, obviously because of graduation requirements and credit, we really are probably looking at somewhere in that after April vacation, which is pretty classic for most people, whether it's a fourth quarter or using the April vacation as a natural break. Obviously, one of the concerns we have is anybody taking AP classes. You got to be in class by the time you get to mid-May when those tests are given. So, but again, I think a lot of the schools we talk to and a lot of the students we talk to too, an abbreviated internship that may only go the last 2 weeks in May before graduation. I think it's still going to be a great experience, and I think our kids are excited about it. So, although they may be disappointed in not being able to get out of the building near the end of the school year, I think it's still the opportunity to be there. And again, most of our students we have very few students that take one AP course. That kind of working around that schedule might work, and most of them are taking multiple AP courses. So the idea of leaving the building in April or the beginning of May is kind of difficult for them to do.
And will they get credit for the internship? Is
Yeah,
there...
so again, there's part of what we're working out also. Pretty typically, everybody would talk about whatever courses you're looking at. They're successfully moving on their internship, then like a third quarter grade would transfer into a fourth quarter grade through most of what we're looking at. I think what we wanted to really take a look at was obviously whatever the culminating experience is going to be, whether it's a paper, a presentation, a video production. We would tie it into probably their English, because as a 4-year requirement, as we look at that, that's going to be that thing for us, and where we've also moved to semester courses for our English class. It's one of those you're going to be kind of 3/4 of the way through a class at that point in time. So we want to give them the opportunity, and obviously the natural progression there is they're going to be doing some sort of writing that's going to happen there, and to be able to use obviously their English teacher, but any teacher in the building as a mentor to help them put that together. I think that's how we're looking to give that credit as we go through.
And do you think you're probably going to have some kind of qualification requirements for the students?
Sure. As we look at that, again, a lot of it is obviously we want a student that's in good standing. And then obviously as we look at whatever their other requirements may be, if they have things that may preclude them from doing it, I think is also the reason why we've also talked about looking at giving students an opportunity in the building. So if they're not capable of doing it or leaving school at that point in time, then it also gives them still an opportunity and kind of an incentive to do well in school so that they'd be ready or be available to take these examples out.
And then this may be the last one, depending on what your answer is.
Oh God, it's a little pressure on you.
How many school districts around are doing it, and is it a trend? And I'll lay out the question for you now.
Sure.
Is it a trend, and is it unique enough that it's a resume builder for our students, or has the ship sailed because college acceptance has already occurred by the time they enter the internship?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's one of those things, and again, part of the reason as we look at this, I'll give you that in looking around and having been at other schools that do this too, I think the internship is something that has been around for quite a while, but I think it's something that's gaining traction, and a lot of it is kind of the idea of, okay, I think you're accepted at a school, but what are you planning on studying, and kind of giving them that idea of before they get off to college and they've declared a major, they may be able to kind of, test the water. They dab their foot in the water and see if it's okay or not, if that's what they want to do, or they might be able to make that change so they don't show up to a college campus. Hi, I think I want to be marketing, and as opposed to I did an internship. I don't know if marketing is what I want to do. Maybe I want to go something more business administration. Maybe I want to go accounting. So I think it's one of those things that's beneficial, that colleges like to see it, in the fact that, okay, you've kind of tried some stuff and you sort of either know what you want to do or you know what you don't want to do. So it gives them that opportunity that you don't have a student arriving on campus, well, I think this is what I want to do, and then let me have that go in. But I think it's, is it unusual enough to be a resume builder? You said it. At that point in time, they're already accepted. We're hoping, obviously, through the possibility of students working with the writing center or the help desk, some of the things we're doing within the building, and we might be able to expand that to juniors in the future. That might be one of those things that we can expand this to give them that resume builder. That might be something that sets them apart, that they might have, when we look at, we've got some freshmen and sophomores working on our help desk right now, and they're just kind of those whiz kids with tech stuff. And I think it's some of those same things as we can get them involved. The more we can give them some of those alternatives and something that may set them apart, then it will be a resume builder. But I think it's also, the concept of internship is also one of those, I think it's valued and recognized at the collegiate level, that's also a way to get kids exposed to what they want to do and kind of give them a leg up as they show up on campus. Did I do okay, or am I getting a follow-up question? All right. Final answer.
Any other questions, Dorothy?
So logistically, you had a whole bunch of ideas about what the internship could be.
Sure.
But you mentioned a committee that has about 6 people, and not the names of the individuals, but sort of the representation.
Sure. Yeah. So we're looking at guidance. We're looking at our academic classrooms. We're looking also at at teachers that are in some of the elective courses and things that we're looking at. So we tried to get as broad a spectrum as we could without becoming unwieldy. But I think there's a couple people that were, you know, Kevin led a committee 2 years ago, and we talked about this before, and it kind of, it started, it didn't, we weren't sure, so some of those people are back on, and we've added some other people, some newer teachers on staff to look at that. So I think we're excited about the group that we have of kind of seeing it. And I think not only with the people that are on the committee, but there are a number of teachers and people in the building that are interested in the internship program to either say, I'd like to work with a student. I may not be able to be on the committee, but I'd like to work with a student. So whether it's our art teacher, whether it's our music teachers, whether it's our computer programming teacher, whether it's, you know, again, our science teachers talking about having a lab technician, somebody that can help them set up and run labs and kind of be an extra set of eyes and ears in a lab would be a great idea. So I think there's an awful lot of buzz from people in the building and from all different areas in the building that may not be on the committee but are kind of represented in the fact that we're going to, you know, elicit their input on what we're doing.
And also, you talked again about all the things that could happen, and you know, a couple things about who would qualify. But what are all the things? I mean, to do a whole review of is this going to work?
Mm-hmm.
What are all the things that the committee is looking at?
I'd say that again.
You know, so instead, I mean, you talked a lot about all the different ideas
Sure.
of what the internships could be. You kind of mentioned what the qualifications might be. You kind of mentioned looking at the schedule. So along with how all the internship possibilities, what are the other things that the committee is looking at to make sure it's a viable?
Oh, sure. So I think, you know, a part of it is obviously just coming up with protocols and kind of the guidelines of, you know, to give it and lay it out there for students. Here's how you present a proposal. Here is how you might, again, with some of the internal things that happen, here's how you might be identified as looking at that. Then I think obviously once we get those students involved and working on it, as we look at it at this point, we're probably looking to try to touch on probably a handful of students to a dozen or so that would pilot some sort of program. And then as we look at their feedback, and then as we also, I think part of that whole process, we'll be surveying students and see what their interests might be and see where their interests may lay. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Close enough?
I guess I'm not doing well at asking good questions tonight, but yeah, I think it answers it.
A complete list of this is what you have and this is what's available. Is that what you're asking?
A complete list of you know, we've thought about all the different aspects of implementing an internship program. You know, that it'll work from our schedule standpoint, that we have a way to monitor that
Sure.
You know, the students are doing the right thing, that, you know, all the different
Right.
aspects to make it a complete good program.
Right, and I think, so part of that is obviously as we look at, part of that what the committee is developing, and then we looked at other ones. So as we look at sort of what those protocols are, what the steps are going to be, and I think right now, obviously, we're moving forward with the steps with our current schedule. Here's what the steps are you're going to need to take. So it's kind of step one is this, step two is this, step three is this. And then again, the proposal and kind of what you get through and what the culminating experience is going to be. So there'll be outlines to what they need to do, and that'll be based on obviously our current schedule and what we have in place now. You know, again, I talked about a lot of possibilities. I think there's a part of it that we're really excited about it, and I think the sky's the limit as far as where we can go with this. And I think that's one of the things that in our conversations are all, I don't want to set this up and say, here's what you need to do in order to do an internship, because we want to leave it open-ended for if somebody comes in and says, hey, I've got this great idea, can I try this? We want to be able to say yes to that. And I think it's, but I think to your point, but we don't want just, all right, see you later, come back in a month and tell us what happened. There's certainly going to be guidelines. Part of it is using teacher mentors. So when a student goes on, especially if they're out of the building or even if they're working in the building, they're going to have a teacher mentor that they're checking in with, whether it's weekly, whether it's bi-weekly, to see what their progress is and to make sure that they are doing what it is that they're saying they're going to do and kind of what they were, making sure they're meeting goals and deadlines in whatever their proposal was for that internship.
You mentioned another magic word, schedule.
Yeah.
So I think I was hoping when we saw in the strategy looking at this high school schedule
Mhm.
that it would be broader than just how to make the internships work, but that it would be considering things like how does our current schedule enhance student learning?
Sure.
What does it prevent in student learning? And just a broader look at,
Sure.
are there ways to change the schedule that enhance more than just the ability
Oh,
of the
without a doubt. And
internship
I think
program?
that's an ongoing situation for us. We're always, I think it's, I've had this expression before. If there was a perfect schedule out there, everybody'd be doing it. Everybody loves parts of their schedule. Everybody has things that they want to work on. And I think that's, for us, we're constantly looking at our schedule to see how it can enhance all of our students. Obviously, the mention of it here is specific to the internship program because it's part of the internship goal. But a bigger part of that, looking at putting a committee together and looking at schedules, is to sort of see where can we enhance what we're doing now. Can we build that Frankenstein's monster of schedules to take the parts that we like in our schedule and take maybe the parts that we like in someone else's schedule and see if we can kind of sew those together and come up with something that's going to be a little more versatile with what we do. I think there's parts of our schedule right now that we really love and we think it does a nice job. I think there's some things for us, restrictions of with the rotating schedule of part-time students, part-time teachers. We've said it before. In order to justify additional staff, I need to be able to hire full-time staff. And sometimes our numbers and kind of our needs aren't full-time staff needs. But I can't really hire a part-time staff member because if they're coming in to teach 1 or 2 classes and it's 8 o'clock this period, 9 o'clock the next period, if they've got childcare or other work abilities, that's a struggle for us. In the past, we've looked at it. It hasn't been a major concern. The majority of our students fit into that schedule and it works out great. But as we start looking at expanding the opportunities and obviously looking at alternative educational models, then we need to recognize that we need to either be able to come up with alternatives to our schedule or again, ways that we can be more flexible within the current schedule as we look at that. But I think it's, there's other things there as we look at it. And we've talked about in the past with science and the use of science labs or as, that I think, you go back and forth. I think we're pretty happy right now with that about an hour-long block, but you have those block schedule proponents that love 90 minutes, but if it meets every other day or it meets one semester, there are all those questions when you look at schedules that, some people are still using a 45-minute block. And I think we're constantly looking at that. I think, Kevin and I talk about it all the time. Anytime we go to a conference, you're always listening. What do they do? What happens with that? So I think it's a great question, and obviously we're looking at schedule more so than just this, but the mention of it here obviously is specific to it because that's what the goal is.
So as I go to different districts, I hear a lot of districts talking about how whether or not students are consistently engaged in learning at the high school, particularly around directed studies or study halls. Have you ever looked at the amount, at any given period, what percentage of your students are engaged in learning at any particular time? And is that based on the student's desire or is it based on the fact that they couldn't get a class, so they're taking a study? Or
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, Dorothy. I think when you look at, I think any given period, you're maybe looking at 10 to 12% of our students in a directed study that they aren't in an academic class. The majority of that, though, when you look at our staff is fully staffed, our classrooms are, they're pretty good size. It's not like, I've got teachers hanging around going, boy, I wish I had some kids in this class to teach. So I think we're pretty well scheduled. And again, part of that is, as we talk about it, as a fairly small school, if you're not in math if you're not in music or in art, we don't have those vocation. I'm going to go back to when I was here, way back when, and there was an electricity class, there was a small engine workshop, there were some other vocational kind of classes, electives that could fill up a student. But I think again, a big part of that isn't really about our schedule. I'd need additional staff for that, and I think that's that catch-22 that we've talked about. So a big part of sort of what we're talking about with, we'll talk about goal 2 here with early college or a dual enrollment kind of thing, and that internship is trying to figure out how we can give kids opportunities that may get them out of a directed study and have them, whether they're helping someone else in a tutoring capacity or are being tutored or being helped somewhere along the line, or working with the makerspace and giving them some alternative opportunities that gets them in a directed kind of instructional situation and instructional mode, I think is what we're always looking to do. But I think, our numbers are fairly favorable as far as, the percentage of our students that at any given period are in a directed study. And again, I think it's, knock on wood, our kids within that are usually pretty efficient, and they really kind of take advantage of that time to get other work done or work or get ahead on some other things too. There's no doubt about it. When the weather turns nice, it's also kind of nice to sit out on the picnic table in the sun and kind of enjoy it a little bit, especially as we get those seniors last period might just kind of be relaxing a bit. But I think, we say it all the time. The 6 periods prior to that, they were working pretty hard. So for them to take a little relaxation there and get some work done and a little more casual atmosphere, that I think it's one of those that we talk about all the time, trying to balance out that social emotional need of our students along with the academic need.
So that if you're thinking about maybe some of the things we're talking about could open up more opportunities for students, would one way to measure the success be to look at, maybe this year and a couple years down the road, are you able to get?
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, if we kind of take a look at it, we can go back and obviously pull the numbers and see how many students we have, and then moving forward to see, does that make a dent in the number of students that are unscheduled at that point in time. So certainly looking at that. That's great. Thank you. That's a great piece of evidence for us.
Bob, I just have one follow-up to what to what Dorothy was asking you, and then just jumping ahead to goal 2. Between 1 and 2, that's probably going to prompt you guys to really drill down on that schedule a little bit more then,
Sure.
right? Because I know you'll get into 2, but 2 is not going to be, if I'm, the way it's going to be set up is that's going to be a set schedule at wherever that student's going outside of the school. So if we're rotating, they could be rotating out of that schedule, right?
Right.
Unless they do a night.
There's a couple things there, Tim, to kind of jump into it. Yeah. So goal 2, as we look at provide students an opportunity to earn college credit. Currently, there exists dual enrollment. So we get those students that will, for whatever reason, are looking to kind of get a jump on college. So dual enrollment right now is they're going to community college, they're going to a local college, and they're on campus. They're at that campus. They're not even here in the building. So there's no kind of bouncing back and forth with the schedule. So part of what we're looking to do to kind of enhance that, and we had some meetings at the end of last year. We had a couple meetings prior to this year. I have a meeting next week with some area high schools, and obviously North Shore Community right now is kind of the lead person on this. We've kind of given it the title Pathways to College. I think one of the things we looked at is, as opposed to the classic dual enrollment, is kind of a generic, you go ahead and pick up those credits. But I think one of the things we're looking at is to kind of focus a little bit more and even grab a kid that might be in a junior year or get into senior year. And again, as we talk about pathways, what the community college we want to do is, part of it relates around having someone there, a little more structure in the building, where right now we've got a high school student that involves in dual enrollment, and we pat them on the back and say, thank you very much, here are the courses you need to do, and we'll give you credit for it. And they're kind of on their own. We've been lucky in the past that our students have been mature enough and disciplined enough to get there, and whether they're commuting back and forth or they've set their schedule. Some students have come back and played sports with us, even though they're still a student at the high school and have been involved. But again, one of the things that we look at it to try to make that accessible to maybe a special ed student or an alternative student, to have a connection on the college campus is going to make a big difference. So I think part of that is looking at specific educational goals that are going to happen. And I think the community college, as we've identified, the 3 or 4 different ones right now are looking at some like healthcare, some small business management, entrepreneurship, culinary, and also science and tech, so computer programming, and it's kind of computer technician sort of thing. So kind of specific pathways that they're going to be looking at, so they have kind of a little more focus, and then also the community college can also kind of provide a little more guidance with people within those departments for the kids that are coming in there. So I think part of what we've talked about, and again, we're back to that right now, the way that would exist is the same thing. A student would leave and not be at Linfield High School, but be at the community college and doing it. One of the parts to kind of coordinate those two is obviously if we come up with a different schedule that doesn't rotate, there might be that possibility of either a student spending half their day here and then afternoon classes or morning classes. One of the things that we've looked at, and some schools are doing it too, is they're also looking at staffing. So there might be a college professor that would come to the school and teach a class here on our campus that's going to earn them credit, at the college and when we're looking at. So again, there's another part of that as we look at that and see if our schedule would allow that. Because again, with the rotating schedule, that college professor that has, 8 o'clock open every day, but, they can't come here and do 8 o'clock today, 9 o'clock tomorrow, 10 o'clock the next day. That's not going to work. So that's a part of kind of what we're looking at in that case. So there's really kind of goal 2 in a nutshell right now. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim. So again, we've got a number of, the committee right now is really guidance and myself. And then the committee really is also more related to, we've had Masconomet, Manchester Essex, Swampscott. There's been a number of different local area schools that have been working with North Shore right now. Yeah, Amesbury has a great program. They work more with Northern Essex. But, it was kind of my original exposure to this was Les Murray when he was the principal up there, and we've talked to them quite a bit. And you talk about they have a great program. They have community college professors that are coming on campus. They've got a little bit different need and a little bit different use for it, but I think we've all kind of said we like what we hear from that, and we really kind of like the idea of that. So I think it's one of those to give our students that opportunity. So that's where a lot of kind of sort of down this way a little bit more, schools are really kind of looking to see where can we go, whether it's Salem State, whether it's North Shore, to kind of look at some other college opportunities for our students. And again, that's, like I said, dual enrollment has always been there, and we've had some students that have been wildly successful with dual enrollment, and it's really been a great thing for some of our students that kind of, they're mature enough and they're kind of feeling like, I've outgrown this place, I want to move on, and they've really done some nice things. Or again, that student that kind of felt like they didn't fit in or what was going on, and that gave them some versatility to take classes and really kind of, you're not 7:50 you start, 2:26 you're done. You might take a couple courses in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a couple courses in the afternoon, Tuesday, Thursday, and they can fit in work and doing some other things. So I think that the versatility and the alternative opportunity for our students that may not want to go right down the path that most of our students are going, I think is an outstanding opportunity for them. Questions on that?
2 questions. One is, how is this funded when we're going to if a student were to go to a community college?
Right.
Is that through parents or through the district?
So there's a number of different things. So typically dual enrollment, there's been any number of state funding that some years dual enrollment's been free, depending on the number of students that are participating in it. A part of this as we move forward, obviously a part of what the community college has talked about and has been that kind of drawback is to say, if I'm going to have somebody who's going to be staffing and coordinating, then clearly that's a position we need to try to add. So, there's been a lot of talk over how many students they'd need, and we say it, to be honest with you, I'm not going to have 20 kids who are going to take advantage of this. Again, I think there's a difference. Amesbury has a few more students that are they're not following the traditional path that our students are, but this is where we've talked about it. If we can all contribute 2 or 3 students to it, and they have a cohort of 25 kids, then that makes it worth their while. But I think, again, there's any number of funding, whether it's a cost share, whether it's parent funding, whether, again, a number of students may be in special education, whether it's special education funding. Kara, try not to gasp back there, but, I think those are all the things we're exploring. Jamie, it's a great question. I think that's a part of it is it something that at a fairly low cost, like right now we have funding that goes towards some of our online courses and some things like that. Is there ways that we can either generate income or generate some finance for that, or is there a low-cost version of this that might be able to work? Or again, there's that part of it's a great opportunity, and the community college obviously is a very affordable road to go. That I think it's happened in the past where some years there's funding, other years our families haven't batted an eye when they said, well, this is dynamite. I'm going to earn college credit for a lot less than if they were taking a course at a local private college or even a public college.
And this is, there may not even be a question in this. This may be more just a statement, but I feel like looking at goals 1 and 2, this feels very, very senior heavy with a very narrow number of students that this is impacting.
Sure.
And I think, part of me wonders, are we focusing on the right students for something like this? Because in some ways we're making students more marketable for a college decision that's already been made at that point.
Well, it's a great point. I think, part of that, obviously, when we look at some of the internship stuff, the internal internship, I think it's one of those things that we would hope to kind of expand that to include more kids other than seniors. So whether it's a junior, and again, part of the pathways to college, part of that program, what we've talked about is possibly looking at, excuse me, a junior in that situation that might know or have a pretty good idea that they want to get into healthcare or they want to get into culinary arts, or there's something that, again, for us, not being a vocational school, but having students that have vocational interests, there's an opportunity for them to still continue and earn their Linfield High School diploma while going on and starting that college career as we look at it as a junior. I think the other part of it is although the programs are kind of targeted more towards a senior and possibly juniors, I think the impact of it, and our hope is obviously, especially with those kids that are working in the building, the impact of it is also going to be on our freshmen and sophomore. We're going to be benefiting from the interest and from the effort of the upperclassmen, which then is going to pique their interest to then look to explore it when they get to that level. And I think, again, at some point in time, that they can then, when it comes to colleges and they're looking at colleges, and they can have that conversation about, these are some of the things that I've done, I participated in as a student earlier, and I plan on getting involved in when I get to be a junior or senior. So I think, there's no doubt about it. Right now, it seems fairly narrow, but I think, obviously our hope is that it takes off and we can expand that.
Sounds good.
All set. For goal 3, can I do what they said? Does that work? Does that get me off the hook? I think obviously you've heard a lot tonight about the district-wide vision and obviously what's happened with the ELA review committee. So I won't get into a lot of that. I'll kind of get into specifics as we look at, and I think it's right back to obviously where we're at right now is when we talk about the move from the wordly wise, here's a list of 10 words, learn their definition, use them in a sentence. There's no context to that. So I think as we looking at our vocabulary from a contextual standpoint, again, which blends and bleeds right into what the new SAT format is going to be looking like. And I think that's a part of, that's just good teaching and learning. There's a part of that sometimes we keep doing these things because they've always been done, and to try to take a fresh look at that, and obviously a fresh K-12 look at that, and really see how we're teaching vocabulary and kind of what we're looking at. And I think it's been really exciting to see that and see those conversations, and to see staff from the high school go down to the middle school, from the middle school go down to the elementary school and have those conversations and kind of see what's being done at the other level so they recognize how that transition's moving forward. I think the big thing for us, excuse me, obviously as we look at identifying that vocabulary for our SAT, for our PSAT, even for our AP testing, as we look at that and kind of seeing what works right now. We've already piloted that with a couple of classes last year. So this year, the crux of the plan right now is to then the rest of our English class. So now it's uniform across all our ELA courses, and then obviously using our summer curriculum to then work at moving that across disciplines for next year. So again, this is a goal that is going to continue to evolve as we look at that and kind of take all the things we've talked about and kind of look at how we address vocabulary, how we teach vocabulary, and then see how we can implement it, obviously this year in across the board in our ELA classes, but then how that also then blends in with our social studies, our math. We start talking about, especially for us at the high school, biology and our science and our math are very vocabulary heavy in what we do, and we've got pockets of teachers who have worked on summer curriculum within the math department that have done a major emphasis on some of their SMART goals with working on a common vocabulary as they're looking at different math courses. And I think that to be able to coordinate it school-wide and district-wide is really exciting, and I think we're looking forward to that. So if there's any other questions on that, I don't want to belabor the vocabulary goal that everybody's been looking at today.
Okay,
Great.
all set. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you.
Okay. Dorothy?
Can I just make, I think that the people who are presenting tonight did a really nice job when they, for the most part, when they went through the goals of highlighting this hits this district strategy, but it's not done in the document itself. It would be kind of nice if it were highlighted, bolded, asterisked, or something for each goal to say which part of the district strategy it actually related back to.
We can, I see what you're saying, because all of the strategy is there. We can certainly do that. You won't be getting new, fresh books for that, however, but we can certainly go back and do that, because each of the presenters did speak to it, so we can do that. And I just wanted to thank the principals and the leadership team at the preschool that was headed up by Kara, just for, I think the plans that were put together tonight are very thoughtful, and I think they do reflect the vision of the strategy, as well as the mission of the Lynnfield Public Schools, and it really reflects, and I think Jamie and Tim both asked questions or spoke to it tonight, the feedback that was given through the entry plan findings. So I think that this is the beginning of that vision, that common vision, and really having a roadmap that we call district strategy to really begin that implementation process. So I really want to thank them for their work on that. I think they did a great job on it.
One more thing. You know, usually we hear about the school improvement plan, and then a year later we hear the update. And I think, you know, there's so much good, exciting stuff in here. It would be great partway through the year to get an additional update.
We can certainly do that. We can look at the year-long agenda and see when it would make sense to put that on.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to thank everyone as well who have been here for quite a while, listening and presenting. And I just want to mention to those at home and, you know, to everyone in the community who don't have access to this book and aren't looking at it with us. I mean, it's a clear, like, physical representation of how much work goes on behind the scenes, and how well thought everything is so well thought out and deliberate, and you know, that kind of jumps right out of this book. So I appreciate that. And for those people at home, I just want them to know that that all the pages we're turning here, you know, that's really a very quick summary of what's in it. It's just very deliberate, thoughtful processing here. So anyway, anything else? Okay. Where are we on the agenda?
We're on the budget calendar.
Okay, budget calendar is the next item.
So that's a pretty quick item. In your folder, you do have a copy of the FY17 budget calendar as a draft. And I guess I would just say, are there any thoughts on this or questions on this? We're beginning it. It kicks off on October 5th with the templates being distributed to the principals and the directors. Brings us all the way through to early December with our town-wide budget summit, ending with April 25th with town meeting. It pretty much follows the format that we have been using for the past couple of years. But if anyone had any questions or thoughts on it, I'd be happy to hear them.
I know.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly. Looks good.
So we're gonna have three big public reviews, correct?
Speaking from, so you're looking at January 26th, the February date, and the March 22nd date? Is that what you're looking at, Jamie?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Then yes, you are correct.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? All right. Then good.
Okay.
Looks good. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public. Do we do public participation before superintendent?
Not usually.
Okay. Public participation. Anyone for public participation? Okay, seeing none, we're on to the superintendent's report.
So 3 quick things on my report tonight. The first is rolling out of the district strategy. It has been very exciting. I have loved sharing the strategy with the faculties. I have presented to Huckleberry Hill at their faculty meeting, and I also presented at the middle school. I think the thing that most excites me about the presentations is the feedback that I'm getting back from the teachers. I'm getting very thoughtful, either face-to-face conversations or emails upon reflection of the presentation, and how powerful the teachers feel that the strategy is, and how they can really relate to it and own it as we move forward in the district. And that is really the whole goal, right? From the beginning, we've said that this is not my document, it is not your document, it is the district's document, and it's important for everybody to have a shared ownership in this if this is going to work out the way that we want it to work out. So I was super excited about the 2 presentations that I did, and tomorrow after school I will be presenting to the high school at their faculty meeting, and then within the next couple of weeks I will be going to Summer Street to present to them. So just wanted to share that information with you. Open houses are done, completed, wrapped up. We have had great feedback from parents on open houses. It could not have been hotter on the nights that we did the open houses. I think the middle school took the cake for, I think, probably the hottest evening. But everybody really did a great job. The parents approached me, approached administration, and said that presentations were thoughtful, again, presentations were informative, and it was just a really nice feeling to the school year. So those are done, and we're open and ready for business. So the last thing that I wanted to report on was the school resource officer. We could not be happier with this collaboration that we have with Patrick Curran and the Linfield Police Department. Patrick he's everywhere. Every time I turn around, every building I'm in, I feel like I look over my shoulder and he's there. Brian and I had a situation this morning that we needed him immediately, and within 5 minutes he was by our side troubleshooting with us a situation that we had. He sends out a schedule every Friday to the administrators and says, pending any emergencies or anything else that I need to deal with, this is my schedule and this is where I'll be. So I know that he's already been instrumental at the high school level. We've had a few things happen that he has jumped in and has really helped. The assistant principal, Kevin Sear, and Bob Cleary worked through some things. So that has been such a positive addition to our school district. And he actually is clearing out a little closet here so that he actually has a little office space with his laptop and his desk. And so he's made himself quite at home here, and we are glad that he has. So that's my report time. Any thoughts, questions, or concerns?
I just wanted to make note of Patrick as well. I was at the football game on Friday night and I saw him there, and I noticed that the younger kids, like middle school level, maybe elementary school level, were flocking to him, giving him high fives, and he was a little bit of a Pied Piper. The kids were following him, so you could clearly see that he's made the kids very comfortable with his presence, and it was nice to see. It really was. So that's all I have to say. But okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda are the matters for action, which we have a vote on the strategic plan. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Move to approve the district strategic plan. Is it really only for 2015, 2016?
No, not really.
Okay, so move to approve the district strategic plan, period.
Right, right.
Second.
Okay, and before we voted on, I just want to, we've talked about this already, that it's a fluid document. It is what it is right now, but the expectation is that it's kind of going to change as work gets completed, and or things take longer than we expect, or things are moved to more important than the other. So just wanted to say that before we voted that it's
So we're not
fluid.
tying anybody's hands by voting it. We do understand it's a fluid document.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the strategic plan passes. Yay. All right, excellent.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all for your patience.